Hi.
Hello. I'm back. Hopefully you can see me okay. Let me actually take care of one brief thing. There we go. That should be a little better. Alright. Alright, you guys hearing me okay? Everything sounding okay on your end here? No crackle? Everything working good? Alright, excellent. Welcome back to our 10th anniversary live stream here on twitch.tv/DDO stream and youtube.com/DungeonsandDragons/live. Sorry about that. Had some audio issues which ended up being a full hard drive. That's why when it was sounding fine yesterday when I was doing my test and when I started the stream, all of a sudden we were getting crackle. It's because my hard drive was like absolutely flat full. So I had to scorch earth my C drive here, and now we're back. And I'm back, by the way, with Noah,
Hi.
one of our premier artists here on Dungeons & Dragons Online. Thanks very much for taking a minute with me, Noah.
Yeah, no problem.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you like a gnome?
How much am I like a gnome?
Yes.
I'm kind of short, so I guess I have that going for me. And I don't know. Other than that, I don't really think I'm very gnome-like.
The reason I bring that up is because you have really just spent the last, 3 months or so of your time just pretty much being a gnome full-time on the art side. So that involves doing what? Like hairs and noses and beards and all the rest?
It involved a lot of stuff. I started by basically drawing out a concept for what I wanted gnomes to look like in DDO. And then I had to come up with basically all the variations of gnomes. So it wasn't just coming up with like, hey, what does one gnome look like? It's also coming up with what are all the noses for them? What are all the eyes, the mouth, the hairstyle, stuff like that. So I was drawing that out initially to figure out kind of the direction I was going in, and then I was actually modeling and texturing the stuff as well.
Awesome. So can I ask what was some of your inspiration on that? I mean, clearly 3.5, Dungeons & Dragons was a big inspiration, but what else is out there?
I looked at the art from 3.5. I also looked at the art from 5th edition, and then I just also was looking at other references online for different people's takes on gnome and just trying to come up with something that felt true to our game.
Cool. So and you do this, is it Maya? Is that really what you guys use?
It's Maya, and it's also Photoshop. I also use 3D code. I don't know if these will mean anything to people, but
we're talking to a highly technical audience here, so.
Yeah, modeling is in Maya, but then what really sells it is the textures. And textures I was doing in a mix of Photoshop and also 3D Coat, which basically lets you take a model and draw directly on it.
Very cool. All right, so now that GNOME is on the cusp of being out, we're currently planning to debut Update 30 on Monday. Mm-hmm. That's basically kind of the equivalent of a painter putting their art on presentation, right?
Yeah.
So are you nervous?
I mean, I was definitely a bit nervous at points. Like when we had the first screenshot of GNOME, I was looking at the forums and seeing what people were saying, and it's definitely kind of weird because you get a bit attached to what you're working on, and then you see all these people and they're like, oh, I didn't think it would look that way, or I thought it would look another way, but I feel pretty confident with how it ended up coming out at the end. And yeah, I know not everybody's going to be happy. I know it's impossible to make something that everybody is like, oh, this is totally what my personal vision for GNOME was, but I hope I did do work that ultimately people will enjoy, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I guess one of the last sort of comments I had here is that when people run the anniversary quest, you are the quest giver.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually got the chance to, in case you're wondering why the quest giver has pink hair, well, there you go.
Hi.
So.
Yeah.
So that's got to be kind of cool too, huh?
Yeah, no, it was fun to make the gnome version of myself, Noah. Yeah,
Nova, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I should also mention just real quick, how did you end up getting this position? How did you get your start here with Turbine?
So I went to an art school called Ringling and majored in game art and design, and basically, I don't know, got started getting experience there with making art for video games, and through that and having a portfolio and getting in touch with people here, I was able to get a job here.
Yeah. Now, and you're actually, if I could say right, you're from Israel.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so, how long have you been in the United States?
Most of my life. I was born in Israel, but we moved to the U.S. when I was 3.
Oh, okay.
So I speak Hebrew at home, and that's kind of cool. And we've gone to Israel a lot because my family, all my relatives are there except for my close, like my parents and my sister. But all the extended family is in Israel, so we go fairly often, I guess. But I grew up here.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Anything else you want to add?
Not really.
All right, get back to your desk.
Awesome.
You happen to sit next to me. Wave everyone happy 10th anniversary. DDO.
Happy 10th anniversary.
Yeah, thanks, Noah. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Bye.
All right, so I'm assuming, do gnomes get gnerfs? Yeah, I think that's probably the way we're going to have to say it. So hopefully my mic is a little bit stronger. All right. Yeah, I know. See, I knew this whole schedule thing was a bad idea because the odds of me actually being able to meet that timetable were... So, I'm going to be doing all the worlds. Don't worry about it. And like I say, I'm going to be doing this all weekend because, hey, this is our 10th anniversary, right? So, I mean, what kind of chance do you get to do something like this? So I'm going to be on all weekend. Don't worry about that. I'm not done on Caneth, by the way. I'm trying to keep an eye on both our YouTube and our Twitch chat. Michael over on YouTube says, "Am I done with Caneth?" No, I am heading to Caneth as we speak. There we go. Turn myself down there. Like I say, I took a scorched earth policy to my C drive, which also got rid of my DDO settings. It's the 10th anniversary. Why didn't someone say something? Yeah, right. Let's see. I'm going to head into... I'll head into the market here real quick. And do a little bit of work there. I'm invisible at the moment just because I kind of want to be. I hear you, chaoticism. I hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Let me call up my anniversary items again. There we go. I had a request for more of those shields, so I'm going to take care of that as we speak. I can do some more pirate hats. Do some more creature companions, how about? Put them by the auction house so that people can put them in for way too many astral shards right off the bat. Just kidding, folks. If you really want a creature companion and you're seeing this and going, "No, I'm at work," then I would be more than happy to get you one. Just get me a a PM through the forums, and I will take care of it. Call back things up. What should I do? How about... The using. Wow. And here I go, just flat off the bat. Causing lag again. This live server thing. I was a little afraid this might be the case if I did it, but I just end up basically tanking the instance. Mostly due to just so many people in a space at once. It's true, I am the cause of lag. Also, basically it's just everyone just pops onto the same instance and it just causes problems. So like I say, I may end up doing this outside of the live stream more often than not, just because this isn't a very good experience. And if I do it when I'm not on, doing the live stream, then I won't be as likely to have people sort of just pour into an instance there, you know what I mean? So I may end up having to do that, unfortunately. We'll have to see. So let me change the current server here. Text current server. Okay, now. Yeah, like I say, unfortunately I'm taking the instance. Has there been a date for the server transfer? As a matter of fact, there has. We're tentatively looking for the first half of March, potentially something along the line of March 8th. And we'll have to see how that ends up going, but that's the thinking anyway. Said it would be something like that. Hey, how's it going? It'll be just a second. Yeah, it's your turn. You're welcome to step on and by here. We'll get going in just a second. Yeah. Have a seat.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. How's it going? All right. There we go. Going to move on over to our next interview. With me here is... Let me double check, make sure this is going through. Kill the audio. No Bob.
How you doing, No Bob? Not too bad, not too bad. How are folks doing today?
Not bad at all. A few audio issues we're working through. Hard disk issue we worked through. Now we're cooking along and sounding good, and everything should be good. Hey Sev, how's it going?
Happy 10th anniversary DDO. So super psyched to be a part of this cast. The game has been actually a large part of my career while I've been here at Turbine and stuff like that. So.
No, that's right, because you have actually been here. You were here at the start.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit later. I was about a year into it. I joined the team. I started as a systems designer, working mostly on doing. It was mostly treasure and some background systems and stuff like that. And then for a couple of years, I wandered off and then came back and started working on dungeons. Love the work, and I've always liked working with the property and working for DDO because great players, lots of fun, a good deal of creative opportunity. I mean, my favorite job that I've had so far in the entire industry has been working on the dungeons in DDO. They're great. It's a lot of fun. You get to do a lot of silly things.
Right, and you've gotten to do, I mean, everything from, say, item creation to system work to content work. Most recently you did quite a bit of work with our last, say, 3 or 4 adventure packs, like Trials of the Archons, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was sort of a fun process to getting to meet and sort of work with the players now after a little bit of a break. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, some of the quests, like I made Grim and Barrett, and I thought it was kind of fun to get a chance to, be a big bear, which kind of ran through and knocked down doors because, after a little while pulling levers while it's fun, it's a little more fun to have a giant druid bear, come knock them down. Or if you're going to do a big death wall, why not make it a kobold driving a little gelatinous cube? Because we can, because it's DDO and it's a lot of fun. It's great. It's a great opportunity. It's really neat, and the players have been awesome for so long, and essentially the community has been great and have been nice enough to support us for 10 years, and we're still going strong. So it's super awesome.
All right, so unfortunately you didn't realize this is also a roast because I'm going to out you as the guy who worked on hand wraps.
Oh, yeah. The story about hand wraps was kind of funny. We were getting ready to work on monks. It was me, and we had an engineer there at the time, and as the way it was at that moment, it was right before we went free to play, and there wasn't as much support at that time for the project, and so we were trying to get it done in a really quick manner and in the best method that we could think of, and there's been some bumps along the roads, and coming back, I still get razzed about it.
Yeah, so, the community often has heard the line from folks like myself saying that they aren't really the same as weapons. Can you elaborate on that? How do they differ from weapons? What's their deal?
So essentially how hand wraps work is because of the way that the monk bonuses work in code, it essentially sets it up so that they don't work in the same, they don't go through the same code path that normal weapons go through. It was a decision made by the engineer who was working on it, so I am passing the buck a little bit, and he won't be here, so you can't quite roast him about it. Nice. But essentially, as a part of it, it was the fact that it was a two-handed weapon with different bonuses, and it still had to make sure that you could keep key and all of that sort of stuff, and work in those specific systems. I know that there have been some trials and tribulations over the years, and if I had my druthers, we would have redone the system and reset it up, but occasionally we made decisions which for the long-term health of stuff didn't go quite as well as they could have.
I believe it's called the realities of game development.
Oh yeah. It's good intentions, not enough time, and a bunch of creative people trying to do the best that they can with limited resources. Yeah. You sometimes get that.
So, I mean, not only, I am giving you a hard time here, but, at the same time, hand wraps are an intrinsic part of Monk, and the reason people sometimes gnash their teeth on it a little bit is because they also love the Monk, and they like the hand wraps and all that sort of thing. But you've also had the chance to like you said, work on Grim and Barrett. I mean, some of the core systems, frankly, of DDO, some of the backbone are some of your projects as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all the way back to we did some of the work that I did was randomized loot from like level 16 to level 20, and also sort of the progression as we moved up to level cap. I did I did some work on some of the settable trap stuff. I also did. You kind of bounce around and did a lot of things. I was a part of the different group actually, which was sort of a part of the original systems group that worked on the free-to-play transition. And I mean, some of that went a little bumpy. One of the loot systems I had was used for a decent amount of time. It was both well and poorly received. It was the Dragon Touched Armor stuff, and that was sort of an interesting experience. I was somewhat happy with how that came out, but
Dragon Touched Armor is cool. I mean, I think the one of the reasons it got a little flack at the time is due to the sort of random nature of it, but the actual system itself is really strong. That armor was the best in the game for quite a while.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the stories I'd keep on running into people at conventions and stuff like that. We'd go to PAX East and we'd have our player get together, and there'd be some players which came up to me and they'd be like, "Hey, so what'd you work on?" I was like, "Dragon Touched Armor," and they would be so angry at me. They'd be like, "It took me like 300 hours to get the stuff that I was looking for." I'm like, "So what armor are you wearing?" And they'd look down at their feet and shuffle a little bit, be like, "Dragon Touched Armor." I'm like, "Yeah, you see, the way that we kind of built that originally was the concept was that we wanted you to be able to make an upgrade, a decent set of armor, and then essentially have the opportunity to make your like reach and best of the best armor. Since then, also, it was interesting because that was following the first set of green steel and sort of the success of that system, and so we wanted to do something a little different with armor types.
Yeah.
But since then, I've been since I came back, I started getting a chance to work on dungeons, and something that I was interested in at the time, but the team was built in a slightly different way, and so I didn't get as much time or chance to do it. And so I've had a chance recently to do everything from I worked on a lot of the Night Revels quests. I helped set up a bunch of that stuff sort of while we were doing progression for stuff for Grim and Barrett, and that was a lot of fun, getting a chance to sort of look at how we could use the challenge system in a slightly different way and make a little more scaling available stuff. It was a lot of fun. It was very cool.
Cool. I think someone is maybe hearing a Canadian accent. Are you from Canada?
No. I'm originally from Jersey.
Okay.
And so I've kind of come through New Jersey and then bopped all around up and down the eastern seaboard and out in the west coast for a little bit.
So, can we talk a little bit about your game history? Has it always been with Turbine, or have you been working for some other companies as well?
So I've worked for a total of 4 different companies. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any of them. Way back when, I started working on a small MMO. It was called Rubies of Eventide. It was many, many years ago out of a small game system or a game studio in New Jersey. That didn't quite take off how we wanted it to. I ended up working with Eladrin there, actually, and that's sort of how I got into it. And then after that, studio kind of fell apart and came through. I had a couple of years in which I wasn't working in the industry, and then I came back and started working at Turbine as a QA person on the Lord of the Rings online launch. And then following that, I got hired to work for Eladrin on DDO, and I was on DDO for like about a year and a half. And then I went over to Lotro, and I worked on content and small group instances there. Following that, I went to Red 5 Studios. I worked on Firefall for a bit. I did encounter work over there, and then I worked at Carbine Studios, because working at 2 different places with Ainz at the end was kind of funny. I got a chance to work at on WildStar for about a year and a half, and I did a lot of monster creation, and I did some dungeon stuff. I did some tutorial work and things of that sort. And then from there, I came back to work on DDO, because I got the opportunity. I missed the coast, I missed the people. I've known Severin as friend-wise for years and years and years, and getting the opportunity to work with him was great, and getting a chance to kind of meet and catch back up with the team. It was interesting because there was only one or two people involved in the team, which was here from when I originally was here, and so it was kind of great getting caught up and meeting all the new folks. It's been fun.
Cool, cool. Anything else you want to add here?
Happy 10th anniversary. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons Online's been an amazing step and a lot of fun. I've always thought that the dungeon content is some of the most interesting and most diverse things that I've seen in the entire industry. I mean, the dungeon content, while a lot of it is running through the cleverness and sort of the ability to do problem solvings and jump puzzles and all of those types of things, have been things that I find near and dear to my heart and something that you don't get in every other game. I mean, I think that the players and the player community has been great for years. I know that sometimes they're a little, harsh, and, they're very passionate about kind of how they feel of the different things that we're working on and what we're doing. But it's one of those things is that we're glad that we see that passion and we see people caring that much. It's so important. And it's been such a pleasure getting the opportunity to work on this project.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much for taking some time with me this afternoon. I
problem.
really appreciate it. It's nice to hear from you.
And I hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy the new dungeon and have some fun during this fine event. All right, guys. Take care.
Great. Thank you. What am I doing on the live worlds? Oh, I'm just an evening star spawning a million dire bears. Oh man, this is so amusing. How would I had no idea. I knew this was going to be fun. I had no idea it was going to be this much fun. Oh jeez. Unbearable lag. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Alright, so I am going to probably not spawn this many things in the future, because it seems like it's causing problems. Let me do a couple more item giveaways for you fine, patient folks on Caneth who have been so patient and awesome with everything here. And then I'm going to probably just hop on over and do something else. Alright, let me do one more thing here. There we go. Now if I just pop on over to the marketplace, I have a very special person here to greet you. Say goodbye, Coil. Alright, I'll see you guys on Caneth. Thanks very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. I'll do our next server here in just a second. Let me actually shut off that audio, get on a slightly different batch of audio. One of the things I'm doing here is to rather than have everything pre-done, which I think was taking up too much virtual memory. I'm doing this a little bit on the fly. So. Cool. All right. I will be back in just a second.
Yeah, how is this going to go? Are they?
Yep, we're sounding fine. We are live as we speak. So let me welcome Brunt. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Cool. Thanks for joining me. Now, you are also one of the folks who have been on the DDO team, or were on the DDO team for a very long time, and worked for. Well, I guess when did you start?
I was on the original launch first as QA, and then as a starting designer, where I got to fix a lot of the bugs I ended up posting, and then was with the project I think for about 7 years through the original launch and the second launch.
I can't even remember everything that you've worked on. I mean, I remember I used to interview you back on DDO Cast, and then when I started working here, you were doing everything from quests to raids to even like items and systems work and
Yep.
all that.
Yeah.
You just did everything.
I was mostly content for a long time, and then I kind of gradually worked up the systems and building monster AI.
Yeah. And you are one of those folks who started in QA, ended up getting a job on the team.
Yeah.
How did that process go for you? Do you remember?
It was pretty ad hoc. One day you're in your QA, and another day you're a designer.
But clearly you had to have, build up the skill set that it takes to do the coding work, that sort of thing, right?
The scripting. Well, starting on content, we had pretty good content tools, like for dungeon building. You could throw together, a deco with those cell room sets and do lighting and place monsters pretty quickly and do pretty general gameplay, like frankly like a lot of the dungeons you would see in the harbor or in our kind of the early first couple years. A DDO was just like guy could sit down with the tools and do that stuff pretty easily.
Nice.
But as the years went on, like we started to do a lot more complicated things, like what's the Zorian Madness quests?
You worked on those?
I worked on the Hound of Zoriat. I'm trying to remember Rick's form handle. He was the one who did all the
Purple Foods.
Yeah.
Purple Foods.
Purple Foods. He did those. Yeah, I did the giant mind flare that was at the end of
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, with the homing,
Yep.
the homing spheres.
Still, Yalthoon's still one of the favorite mobs in the game, I think.
Yeah, he came out well.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah. So, do you remember, like, what quests and raids can people associate?
I think my first dungeon that like I got a significant reaction from was Zorian Cypher. And then I did Jungle of Kyber. This is way back.
Oh, really? You're the VOD 3 guy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's like, so back when we called them modules.
Really?
Like Mod 1, I did Zorian Cypher, Jungle of Kyber, and I'm trying to think if I did another one. And then I got bounced to the popcorn team, where I did some of the Necropolis popcorn dungeons. They were very popcorny, and there are many of them, and way too much undead. Sorry about that. But and then right. So and then Mod 3, I did the Marilith was my first raid. I got to do the Marilith.
Now, I just want to stop here because someone is saying in chat that I haven't properly introduced you. Your name is Brent, and you were a content designer for DDO for a long time. Currently not on the DDO team, but still with Turbine, clearly. Yep. And I don't remember what your forum name was. Torque. Okay, Torque. There you go. And also, I just want to make sure I just moved my microphone up a little bit, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Yep. So you were saying you worked on Zorian Cypher and Vault of Night Part 3, Jungle of Kyber and all that. And then you worked even up to, including, say, some of like the Missing Quest, Yalthoon and things like that. How did the process of making a dungeon change over that time? Because if I recall, we had a new physics engine and everything.
In the pathing system. It's sort of... DDO had a very powerful scripting system, but it was very complicated and hard to learn, and it's not easy to debug. And basically, just making dungeons and just the kind of the IP inspires you to try new things. Just the team just gradually learned how to tap into that power, and we were able to do a lot more complicated things, and things with a lot more variety, and just got better over the years.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have a favorite bug?
Favorite bug? So, there were a bunch of them. Wow. So when we went to Japan, we would get our Japanese players, they could find the most amazing bugs. And I remember this guy going through this elaborate series of steps to discover the super sky. That's what he called it, the super sky. And what he was basically doing is he figured out how to get outside the land block boundaries of one of the town zones. And fundamentally, because DDO was actually based on the Asheron's Call engine, way back in its roots, the world was fundamentally this humongous flat mesh, this plane that you could play with the topography, in the outdoor zones, but everything was out on that plane, either in the ground as a dungeon or as a town. So if you looked at the real map, you basically had all these isolated things, and some of them, when things that wouldn't make sense geographically were next to each other, but because you travel through portals in DDO, it's a very instant space.
It doesn't really matter where it is on this big plane, because it's just you're teleporting to that instance.
But he got out there. Yeah. So it's basically a flat plane with a skybox, and he's running around basically finding the outer edges of content, and including content that's not in the game yet, wondering what is this? But it was just, it was just funny how he kind of referred to everything. And
we have a question in chat asking if you know who made Whisper Doom.
Okay, so the original Spider, Whisper Doom way back, oh God, I want to say Brendan. I don't remember his form handle. He was the writer. So all the dungeons were made by pairs, and one guy was the writer and the dungeon quest story guy, all the text you see and the NPC you talk to, they're really in charge of the narrative aspect, and then there is the dungeon builder, and they were basically building all the deco, placing all the traps and the monster spawns. And I don't remember who built out the shells for those dungeons. They were built way back before I even was on the project. They already existed when I kind of jumped on and was testing bugs. But I want to say the writer might have been. I don't know. I might have to do some digging to find out.
I know it's hard to, especially because it has been 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And people have worked on a lot of things ever since then. People are asking me, since we're trying to identify who did what, the Pit. Do you remember the Pit?
Oh yeah, that was my fault. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, okay, so yeah, I could talk about how the Pit came about.
Yes, please do.
It was pretty.
Please do.
Pretty. All right. So way back, like we just launched DDO, and there were a whole bunch of dungeons. In dungeons, I'm using the term very loosely. Like they were ideas that were half formed. Had been made and discarded because like people didn't have time to finish them, or they got moved on to other things that were higher priority. And the lead designer at the time, Ken Troop, basically like looked at me and says, "I want you to go through all these old dungeons that have been abandoned and make a list of the ones that we can salvage." So I made a list, and there were like 10 of them. So the top of the list was Zorian Cipher, which was built on the bones of the E3 dungeon we demoed.
Oh, okay.
So like the little floor puzzle and like that split room, there's a floor puzzle and you look down and the two doorways that split you, that was all from the E3 dungeon. Like
nice.
And we built on top of that, and the Chaos Orbs were even supposed to be in the E3 dungeon, but like had been pushed. So when I found them, I put them right back in, and we made Zorian Cipher. The bottom of the list was the Pit dungeon. But Ken thought it was cool.
Yeah.
So the only thing, the Pit dungeon started as that central cylinder with the ramps going down and all the traps, which like had a bug in them that like they didn't work right as you were going up and down. Like there was a vertical problem with how the trap detects work. So it was like way at the bottom of the list. We were like, it's really hard to come up with something to do with this thing. Yeah. But he wanted us to work on it. So we worked on it, and what happened was I was working on probably Jungle of Kyber, and my co-designer, Joe Berry, the story guy, he would often like get ahead of me because like he'd build up the story and the NPC and get all the pieces together, and I'd be like, trying to build all the deco and the visuals and
trying to do vertical trap issues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like on Kyber, it was like Ambush City, and I was trying to make the Merilith like kind of do more things, like the talk to you over the cliff and have these cameos, so you kind of felt like you were racing with it. But anyway, so Joe was kind of alone with the Pit, and he figured out how to copy pieces of dungeons into other dungeons, and he went crazy with it. We actually cut 3 rooms off the Pit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Pit was humongous. Like by the time I got there, it was like, we're gonna have to write a manual for players to play this dungeon. It's so big.
Which we ended up sort of doing.
Yeah, we
right?
did. That was Jared Swartzen. He was a great guy. You can run into him at like PAX all the time. He wrote the manual for the Pit. The furnace rooms. Those were the first dungeon that when I was learning, like the first 2 weeks, I was learning how to use World Builder, our tool. I built those furnace rooms. I built one furnace room actually, and it was like tucked away, and it was just this one room with like kind of this vertical jumpy stuff and the steam geysers, and it was the first thing ever done, and it was kind of so he had grabbed it and thrown it. He copied it and thrown it on one section. He'd found another room, done another. He did the lights out puzzle. That's right at the beginning. Sort of regret putting a puzzle at the beginning of a dungeon. It's better on the side or at the end. But
well, it depends what you're going for.
But anyway,
right?
So it was lights out puzzle. It was lights out. Some was lights out. It was a good puzzle. Anyway, by the time I got to it, it was this humongous monstrosity. And he had like done this complicated flow, and we just at this like it was something like our 3rd or 4th dungeon. I mean, we're all still pretty new to the job, and we just wanted to finish it.
Yeah.
And we did, and it was not perfect by any means of the word, but it was interesting.
It's still, I mean, to this day, it is really its own unique beast in the world of DDO.
Yeah,
so,
I love how it appears in the most loved and most hated lists. Like it appears on both surveys.
You're seeing that in chat. And, some people are like, "Oh my God, this is the guy who made the Pit," and there's some people who are like, "This is the guy who made the Pit," right?
Yeah.
They're seeing people saying, "I'm in the Pit right now," So
it's like, "I'm sorry and you're welcome."
I'm sorry and you're welcome, right?
Yeah.
So, do you remember the name? Why it be called the Pit of Despair? Is it just
We kind of knew we knew it was like this is going to be special. This will take a certain kind of fortitude.
right.
Like, that's because I would get lost debugging it. I'd be running around and like, where's that room again? Like, I need to find this room with this bug in it, or like I'm just trying to get to the end to like do some work or just testing, and it just. So yeah, we call it the pit.
So let me put you on the spot and say, if you were to make an epic or legendary pit, what would that look like? Any ideas? See, here's my thought on it: is that first off, we would take the darkness from Rainbow in the Dark. So the pit would be like the pit, but it would be completely dark, and you'd have to have a torch to get through it.
Oh my god!
And then on top of that, you would be under the effects of a blindness sort of spell effect that you could get rid of with the potion of blindness or whatever, but it comes back every 30 seconds.
Jeez.
So, people are saying, I've run the pit so many times I can do it with my eyes closed. Let's see.
Let's see
is sort of the idea.
You can always get yourself blinded somewhere and go into the pit and find out for certain.
Right.
Well, I guess blindness isn't permanent anymore. That was also my fault. Like I did some of the like the spell duration stuff
right?
like way back. I was like, just stop some of the ridiculous stuff that like works in pen and paper because your dungeon master will find a way for this to work, but like systematically, like permanent curse, or I think curse even lasts through death or something.
Yeah,
it was just like, yeah. I mean, it gives people stories to tell, and I'm part of me is glad that stuff all happened, but it was pretty hardcore.
Right, and now you brought up something interesting, which was I remember a big spell overhaul in 2011, maybe it was, something like that, and that was largely you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I often I would be building content, and I often would struggle with some of the system stuff. Is that if things were kind of, I mean, it's like the D&D system is amazing, and it's like part of our childhoods growing up playing this game, but a lot of stuff out of the book that we loyally implemented, like when the game first launched, works really around like a dungeon master, like a narrative god, to take these things and make a great story with them. But like when you throw them in the system, when the thing is just like it's a computer game and it's just a rule, and the rule is going to do what it's going to do, even if that's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to, we just tried to take the edges off some stuff, and it was just a balance.
Nice.
Big bounce pass.
Can you think of the thing that took you the longest to do? Like the single...
Well, the pit actually did. The pit.
But it's like, how about a systems change, anything like that, or a spell? Is it like, I spent a week on that one thing?
I mean, I didn't, like, Eladrin did so much of the heavy lifting on systems. Like, I pitched hit on systems. So I'm not sure if I really tackled anything truly gnarly on systems.
The pit. I mean, certainly the pit's got to be up there. Now, did you do raid work as well?
I did. I did like half the raids. I did the Merilith. I didn't do the Storm Reaver. What's next? I did Sulaimanes. I did the Hound. I did the Lord of Blades. I did the Time Raid. I did the Shroud was definitely a team effort, which is one of the reasons I think it ended up so good. But I did a lot of the gameplay in the Shroud. Yep. I did a lot of the epic passes, like I did the epic revamp on Vela. Am I missing anything?
That sounds pretty good. So you did the Demon Queen raid.
Yep.
And people are asking in chat, is the Torque of Prince Raum named after you?
No, I think it's more like torque, like you torque something. It's more of like you with a wrench, but I might have that wrong. But no, it's not named after me. No, not to my knowledge, at least.
Nice. All right.
That was a really good item, though, if I remember. Was that the spell point item? You generate spell points?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was so good that when we were giving out for our 10th anniversary on Monday, we're giving out a list of items, like old raid items just from the history of DDO.
Yeah.
Everyone can get one, right?
Yep.
Except for the Torque.
Yeah. No, I'm not responsible for statting the Torque. I'm the guy who made the pit. I'm obviously not that nice.
Right. So, for a couple of years now, you've been working on some other parts at Turbine, and you're currently, if I recall correctly, working on one of our mobile projects.
Yeah.
Is that the one that we sort of have the word out on?
Yeah, it's Arkham Underworld. It's,
Arkham Underworld.
It's
okay,
announced
right.
though, not available. In
it's not. It's not. It is in beta. You can actually sign up for the beta right now on ArkhamUnderworld.com.
Yep.
What's it like switching gears to like that kind of work?
Well, so DDO, I was pretty much content, did a little bit of systems, and did the AIs, which means I did a lot of the boss battles. So it still was a lot of content. Sorry, that's like the Arkham Underworld is it's a tactical game where you like have armies of thugs and you have a supervillain, and it's much more like it's much more of a strategy game, and I do a lot of all the AI on it, and it's much more system work where like I'm dealing with the balance between like players and their armies and their defenses and that, and I don't get to do as much as the narrative stuff. I get to do it a little bit because we have these crazy supervillains and they're such great characters to play with, but it's not. I do kind of miss building the full narrative arc of a dungeon and those kind of making those moments fit together.
Nice. Anything else you want to add here?
I don't know, I probably need to get back to it, but any questions?
I should also mention you did Red Fens, or some of the Red Fens work, right?
I did the capstone dungeon.
Yeah, you're the underwater combat guy.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, underwater combat wasn't really a system. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Like, it started as, let's make a cool dungeon.
Which it is. It is a cool dungeon.
Yeah, and it got sort of marketed as a combat system or like a new gameplay mode, and I don't feel it ever really lived up to that. We wanted to make it 3D, but like we just technically couldn't do it by the ship date. And so we kind of told ourselves like, like DDO is, it's you find it on the ground most of the time. It's all right, but it's sort of like I love the visuals and the ambiance of that dungeon, but like I don't, like fighting underwater, I don't feel like we really explored all that.
But what's interesting? I remember when it came out at the time, and I was one of those folks who was pretty critical of it at the time, but there's something that happens when something is first released, and then sort of the way it changes over time. When you look at, say, something like the Red Fens now, with both its heroic and epic, as opposed to when it first came out, it has absolutely stood the test of time. That content still is being run today. People still like it a lot. In chat here I'm seeing, we need more of that. If you had asked people right when it came out, do we need more of that? They might not have said that. But clearly, when you're designing, you're not just designing for the moment, but you're designing for the long term.
Epic. I actually I did a lot of the kind of design pitching on the Epic, and Epic was a way to we had so many dungeons that were good but flawed, and Epic was a way to we could take a dungeon and we could kind of. And this was definitely sold really well with the relaunch, because we were about to we were a game that had been out for a couple years and had an elder population, but we were going to try to bring in a whole bunch of new people under the free to play model. So we wanted a dungeon where we wanted to be able to take a dungeon that says this is for you end game guys, and at the same time say this is also for you new people who are coming in, and it also let us revisit content and just frankly fix a lot of stuff that needed to get fixed. I hear you guys now have even beyond epic, what do we call them?
Legendary.
Legendary.
Yeah, that's basically CR 31 plus dungeons.
Right. So
yeah.
Might as well, always good to double down on a.
So that's the thing, is we need both a legendary and an epic. So I think we're going to have to kidnap you and make you work on that for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I would love to work on a DDO dungeon again.
Yeah.
Kind of busy right now, but
yeah, right. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining me. It was awesome to talk to you.
All right.
Thanks. All right. Like I said, we're going to have more interviews throughout the day. I know I've been talking, say, with Ladrin, and is going to be on hopefully a little bit later as well. Let me just try to load up a few files here that I've been wanting to actually talk to you guys a little bit about. Alright, so I did up to Here we go. Oops. So like I say, I'm doing this sort of as on the fly rather than what I was doing, because I had to clear out some hard drive space. So this is one of the original logos for Dungeons & Dragons Online. This is an old concept art of the Curlicue Dragon that, of course, ended up being colorized and all the rest of the stuff here that I found when I was digging through our archives, and I thought that was pretty awesome. I just head to chat here quick. King Cosma, is Reaper mode coming? We'll have to see on that. It could well be the case. So, all right. This is, of course, one of the concept design art for our Ifrit. Probably Brent worked on one of these things as well, along with our art team. This was for the Manectaran Desert, which also, interestingly, was also the Forsaken Lands expansion. Now, when I was digging through the archives here, getting ready for this anniversary event this week, I found a potential box art for the Forsaken Lands expansion. And I could talk a little bit about what it is in just a second for those who don't know. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to find it since. What that I don't know where I found it, and now I can't find it, which is unfortunate, because I've been looking for that sucker. I spent about an hour and a half last night trying to do that thing. But the Forsaken Lands expansion was a theoretical expansion to DDO in, I believe it was around 2008. It actually got to the point that GameStop and Amazon were taking pre-purchase orders on it. Not because of anything Turbine did, because at that time, when a new game would maybe be coming out, some of these retailers would say, if it's not announced or if it gets canceled or whatever, then we'll give you your money back. But they don't do that quite so much anymore, but back in, and then that. So somehow there was an article that ended up on the internet about DDO's first expansion called the Forsaken Lands, and they were taking pre-purchase stuff on it, which like I said, Turbine never got any actual cash from any of that. They took that for about a year, and then eventually they ended up giving people their money back, because we didn't do the expansion, obviously, until Menace at the Underdark. So what happened to that content? I found out as I was doing research for the 10th anniversary here that it ended up in two places. One, and most prominently, the Manectaran Desert. And the second one was Drow. Both the Drow and the Manectaran Desert, those assets were initially created for, say, the Forsaken Lands expansion, and then when that became free content, or VIP funded content, because at the time we weren't even free to play yet, that's sort of how that went along. I'm looking at an elf image. This is again a concept art. This dates back to actually 2003 or 4, when they were first designing some of the character models for DDO and doing some various concept art about what they may or may not want to look like. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we started calling that the Forgotten Lands expansion because we just forgot to make it at some point.
Right, the Forgotten Lands expansion. That's pretty funny. So who is with me now? I have got Glenn.
Hey, folks.
How you doing, Glenn?
Doing pretty good.
Great. So
Yeah.
You are one of those folks who have been going for a while as well.
Yeah, so I started, I started playing, with the launch. I was up at 2 a.m. watching the forums, and I had been interviewing at the time, and it took about 3 months to land the gig, but I actually started in April, right after the first update. So I've been on the team for a solid 8 years, and then have then transitioned over to Arkham Underworld. So.
Yeah, right. So are you a pirate in real life, or do you just play one in DDO?
Yeah, I'm a bard in real life, and a fighter and pirate in DDO. That's right. That's been my role.
Nice. So okay, were you always a producer in DDO?
I came in initially to launch in countries outside of Europe. So as I recall, it was French and German was already the localized languages that we supported. So I came in right at the start of that, working with Codemasters, and then came in as we brought on Shonda and Sakura, and then the Let's Game folks in Korea. And those were the Asian launches that we did. So I came in and sort of established the process for how we're doing that. Used a little bit of my engineering chops to do the UI changes that were necessary in there until eventually that was such a large part of our development that we got an engineer to come on for that. And then I was specifically the localization producer, so as anything regarding the external shipments, and those were all managed on different servers at the time. So every one of those was a different environment.
Right.
I did that.
Now, are you talking
for about a
just
year.
the French and German, or were you involved with any of the Sakura stuff?
Yeah. No, all of those.
Okay.
I was there at the beginning of those. So when we established those relationships, how we worked out the process, the tools we needed to build to support it, all the deployment schedules. Turbine hadn't done any of that in the past, so that was all very new stuff. And now it's just sort of, we have a whole department for it. It's very standard to do localization. So, But I was in the early days of that.
Cool. We should mention that we're basically talking about an Asian version of DDO. Was it, what were the territories? Do you remember?
Yeah, Japan, China, and Korea.
Okay, Japan, China, and Korea. Cool.
Yeah, each of those.
And eventually that, got folded away, but, for that was the first, actually. When DDO first came out, that's where it first came before even French and German.
No, it was at launch. It was supporting French and German.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I want to say Codemasters launched within the month after
right.
launch.
Okay.
So it was already live technically when I started. Again, so I came in right after Update 1, which was first week of April, and I was in. I got hired the week after that. That was one of those moments where I was. Pretty good spot, thinking that Turbine liked me and that they wanted to find a position for me. And
what a mistake!
And then I went
a
month of dead air. So I thought and it wasn't my first time interviewing too. I had interviewed 3 years before for an engineering position at the time.
Okay.
And that's what I had been doing prior. So
nice.
As an engineer, game developer prior to coming on as a producer, and I had taken on producer project management roles prior to starting here, so that was a convenient transition. I was not as good an engineer as the engineers we actually have here, so it was a good career move for me to change.
I think we might actually end up playing part of that podcast we recorded way back in the day, where we get into this a little bit, but you actually have some history in the music business.
Yeah, I was a recording engineer before I got into computer design.
Yeah. Could you tell any stories there? Any albums we might know or anything like that?
Well, I worked a lot of time in the live world. So I was in Huntington Beach area and had bands like Korn and 311 and Sublime, Ika Mouse in the reggae genre, a few things like that. And recording wise, there were a few bands that came in. I did some GarageBand stuff, but I mostly did mastering, which at the time we had this really expensive box. It was about $3,500, and it recorded CDs, like right there,
really,
in front
right
of
on
you.
CDs?
Yeah,
That's
right
funny.
on the CD. Really impressive technology. Very expensive though.
Yeah.
Not something the consumer can usually get their hands on. So now I just dated myself a whole bunch.
Yeah, you could have said 8-track. You could have said 8-track.
I didn't say 8-track. Yeah, my grandma had an 8-track.
Right.
That helps. But I started out there, and then that was a really erratic work schedule because I would be doing like a 16-hour day, but there'd be these big gaps in between. I'd be working till 3 or 4 in the morning. So what I did to kill time was I started playing with the Mac, doing 3D rendering, and then they invented the World Wide Web somewhere in there, Al Gore, and I started transitioning to web development. So that was my start in the industry for getting into gaming. After that,
kind of back to DDO, I know that you were very busy around the free-to-play launch. Is that correct?
very busy. In
Like
terms
you were
of,
working
like,
for DDO, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've always been on DDO.
Yeah. So what?
And so it was the first
Yeah.
year I did the localization, and then I took the producer role. I think about a year and a half in.
Yeah.
So
Is it safe to say that going free to play is one of the biggest things DDO ever did?
Gosh, probably the biggest thing Turbine's ever done.
Yeah.
In terms of. Well, maybe I wasn't here for the creation of the first game engine,
Yeah, right,
which
right.
is impressive in itself. But the free-to-play undertaking was daring for the industry. Western culture-wise, it wasn't a thing anybody ever did. We modeled a little bit after what we had seen with our China partners and some things we tried with them. And there were definitely some ideas that they had asked for, that sort of a hybrid concept of how do we do free play. Those things were ideas that we branched off of. How do we do this in the Western market? But figuring out how much people wanted to invest when they didn't have to invest in playing a game that they wanted. How much do we give you for free? These were all really new concepts. This idea of the people that have not a lot of time but want to still progress. Maybe it's just to play with their friends. Maybe it's they just want to get the experience and don't have a lot of time for it. But they have the cash instead. That was sort of our initial philosophy. How do we do this thing? I have more time than money, or more money than time. So there's a big learning curve for everybody to do that. And the technical undertaking, that was really focused on making the game more accessible.
Well, and making some pretty tough choices. What will if you think about it at the time, the idea of a free-to-play game in the Western market was not always positive, right? The community that played these MMOs was somewhat resistant to the idea of a free-to-play game, and so
because we didn't want to be
one of the
pay
things
to
we
win.
wanted to do was free-to-play done right. Well, what does done right mean when it comes to DDO? And I think, frankly, one of the reasons DDO has been as successful as it is because we did do it right. We made some changes over the years, but we launched in a pretty good place.
Yeah, we certainly learned a lot in 8 years of free to play.
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaways were we didn't want it to feel like pay to win. We wanted it to be pay to progress. But DDO is a little bit unique. For some other models might have that as more of a trap, that you can just pay to be on the top of a leaderboard. But it's not really what DDO is about.
Yeah.
DDO is about having an adventure, and
So
not about
we never
winning.
got our leaderboards working. I'm kidding.
Oh, we used to have an anniversary cake of leaderboards not shipped.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Let's see. But
So this idea that this is what the community is talked about over the years too. It's like, it's not pay to win if unless you classify winning as I completed the dungeon, but you still have to play the dungeon.
Right.
And you might be able to get yourself more powerful faster, or save time by not having to go back to the tavern. I mean, these were kind of the basic philosophies again. This is the early days of what are we going to offer to players. And then we started taking advantage of those things that are really great for D&D. This idea of a sort of a module concept.
Right.
The same thing as the retail. The retail game box.
And what's interesting is nowadays, I don't know. I mean, free to play is the default expectation now for online games in many ways in general, but particularly in the MMO space. I mean, it's not uncommon for some of the larger, say, AAA ones to maybe launch with a sort of a premium model, that sort of thing. But almost all of them eventually have gone some sort of free to play. So we're both a trendsetter, and I think somewhat other companies have looked to what DDO did right when it came time to bring that to their games.
Yeah, lots of articles out there in the archives about how DDO did it versus how someone else is doing it, how somebody else is doing it, taking what they learned from DDO. And going back prior to that, it's DDO being a trendsetter. So really proud of those accomplishments. I don't think it's done anything but good for the game industry, because it really is, I'm using that word again, accessibility. It lets you jump in without a commitment, and
Yeah.
you know, whether you've got the cash for it or not. I play a lot of free-to-play games because I like to experiment with something, and I don't always financially commit to something that I don't really appreciate.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it lets me opt in.
So 2016 finds producer Glenn currently working on our Batman mobile project.
Yeah, our first mobile initiative for Turbine.
Yep. And what are you doing there?
So I'm the senior producer on the project. We've got a pretty large team now.
Yeah.
As you know, a lot of DDO devs.
Yeah.
The day-to-day, we've got a agile development format. We're constantly working on our planning, grooming our backlog of the things that need to get done, and I've also got to keep an eye on our betas and our soft launch targets.
Yeah.
What are we delivering at what quality? Those are the producery things to do. A lot of cat herding in the day-to-day. So I was just discussing this the other day with
So
someone.
are you
that,
Batman, or are you the Commissioner, or are you...
which character?
Yeah. Or are you the Joker? The evil devious
I got
one.
it. On the supervillain tier of things, I think I'm a big Riddler fan anyways, so I think I'll wear that hat.
Nice. Well, thanks, Glenn. I really appreciate you stopping by and saying hi to us here for DDO's 10th anniversary.
Yeah, and I'll be around. We're going to be playing games all day.
You bet we will. Yeah, well, I'll be here. You'll be playing games. I should mention we have a company sort of DDO celebration going on as well today. So
right.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, we'll be going past your podcast. But been watching all of this and keeping an eye on the chat. So hope people keep engaged today and have some fun.
Great.
We'll see you online.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All
right. Oh, looks like I'm back to my slideshow. Let me just call that up for just a second here. While I'm logging into the different worlds. I'm heading into Galanda next. I'm going to be on Galanda for a little while, and then I'm going to take a brief lunch break. I'm actually starting to have a bit of a grumbling tummy, so time to get some of those free bagels for our Free Bagel Friday. But I'll get a few things done here. I should also say that because of our delays and stuff this morning, it may well end up being that I go a little after 9. I'm here all weekend, because I got nothing else going on. So, this is, for me, this is a really big and important day. When you think about, I've been playing since 2006, and so for me, this is a really, being able to celebrate DDO's 10th anniversary like this is really, really something. So, I'm honored to be here. All right. Let me unblur witch myself. Over at the test dojo. Yes, I'm in the test dojo. You should actually realize that is on the live servers. You just can't get there for obvious reasons. But I wanted to show you here quick before I start doing some handouts and all that sort of thing. This is another area that is similar to the test dojo, but not quite, and this is something that most players have never seen. This area is called Playday, and what it is essentially is a testing grounds for the development team. When we are doing things like, say, trying to figure out whether something will break a box, there you go. Well, if you want to test various guild buffs, trainers, this is sort of a little bit like a test dojo for the development team only. It has also some areas like levers, platforms, various things that you can sort of use when you're building dungeons to see if various things that you're trying to do actually work. So that's really what the purpose of some of this is, unlocking doors and and what have you. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a look-see in this area, because I don't know that any of you have really seen it. For example, like right here, right, we've got, actually, this was probably used for the Warforged Titan area, and the new update 29 content. We have various levers that people can hook up to various things as they want to, and test out some, like I said, different systems and what have you. And check out gates, etc., etc. So you can test, like if you want to test out the types of traps that you have and what have you, you can do that here. Kill that thing right now. And I'm going to show you one other thing here, which is, let's see if I can find a good place to show this to you. Here we go. I'm gonna get rid of these guys too. See these little cones and all that sort of thing? That is often hooked to various properties, like they're called generators, and they can do things like create a trap and a lever, they spawn monsters. They're really kind of internal triggers for the development process, and you can assign them to do different things. So I'm giving you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look on how things actually work inside of a dungeon here. Like, for example, this generator almost certainly spawns these coins and what have you. And that exists in the real world as well. Or not in the real world, but in the actual in-game world is what I mean. It doesn't exist in the real world that I'm aware of. Unless there is something dramatically different involved, like we're living in a Matrix-like area that I was not aware of. Steel Star, yeah, the little ones on the ground are part of the pathfinding system for monsters. Very cool. A little bit like the X-Men training room. Yeah, that's not terrible. Alright, so I am over on Galanda, and I'm going time to cause some lag. Give out some stuff here. Over in House Jarasco. For those who are concerned, all of these items that I'm giving out are all things from what's called a community loot list. These are all items that are specifically created for the community team to give away for events like this. So I'm not giving out raid loot, I'm not giving out... generally all this stuff is cosmetic. It's nothing that gives you significant power or what have you. There are a few things that have minor properties and benefits there. Oh, does it still say Kenneth? Yeah, I'm going to have to keep remembering to do that. There we go. Oh. It has begun. See, this is all the people porting into the instance and kind of killing it. So. Gonna switch instances real quick, just to try to help a little bit with the lag. Cordovan, breaker, I have the power. I crush the worlds. Yep. As I've been saying elsewhere today, I'm going to be doing this throughout the weekend as well, so, you know, because I know me being live on the air and causing this is causing some problems, I'm going to be just popping in through the weekend and that to do this sort of thing as well, where I'm not announced, where you don't know where I'm heading, where I'm not as likely to bring a train of folks in and then thereby crash the instance. So, just so you know that. Oh, I'm swimming away. Yes. I am causing problems. When am I not causing problems for the game, huh? Oh, jeepers. I'm sure the knock folks love me today. Alright. Since we are in House Jarasco, you're right, I cannot die. Oh, don't you go about saying that, Major Val. Yeah, like I said, I know it's a little frustrating for folks right now, you know, because of all the lag and everything. So, like I said, I'm going to be doing this throughout the weekend as well to really deal with this sort of issue that we thought might happen. Yep. Hey Varric, how's it going? Hey C, hey Titan, hey Zalthriz, hey Luke, Quinfer, Holy Munchkin. Nice to see you guys here. Are the invisible stalker certificates on the community loot list now? Yeah. Because I've been giving them out. Cordovan the Lag Bringer. I'll have to change one of my characters' names to Bringer of Lag. Let's see. Well, you'll be able to pick things up once I exunt. Thanks, Major, for stopping by. Hopefully we can hook up a little bit later today on Skype and do a quick chat with you. All right. All these halflings. Oh my god, look at all those people. No wonder it's all laggy. Yep. Yeah, that'll happen. Alright, I am going to briefly move on over back to concept art. Let me dig up some more slideshow stuff here for you. So unfortunately I'm having to do this on the fly rather than... I had this all pre-procced? Is that how you want to say it? But cool. Alright, I am going to take a real quick break. Just to step aside for a second to get myself set up. And meanwhile, I'll play a little bit of audio here that I've got. Let's see what kind of audio I should play. This is... a sample. You know, producer Glenn had talked a little bit about doing stuff for Sakura, and I happened to find some of the Dungeon Master voice work in Japanese. So I'm going to play a little bit of that for you now.
オグルスオープ・ザ・プロスペクターを倒した。アガサ・アンビリロンを倒した。ブランヒルでファイヤーガウトを倒した。ハウス・フィアランが隠していた8つのフィドンスタッシュを手に入れた。次はその中身をハウス・チュラーニの物資に使わなければならない。
Die over in House Galanda. I don't know if you guys can't see it because I didn't broadcast it, but I just went and spawned an Epic Elite Dragon in House Jurassic. So pretty fun stuff for us and for those who survived. All right, so welcome back. You are listening and watching DDO's 10th anniversary live stream on twitch.tv/DDO stream and youtube.com/DungeonsandDragons/live. I'm DDO's Community Manager Cordovan, and we are here through at least 9 o'clock tonight to celebrate 10 years of Dungeons and Dragons Online. And with me is Amanda.
Hi.
How you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Very great. And so you work for the QA team, Quality Assurance.
Yep.
And what does that mean?
Basically what we do is we take certain sections of dungeons that we're going to develop, along with dungeons that are currently existing. We go through different enhancements, character paths, and we see where things are going right and where things are possibly going wrong.
And so you in particular, I know, have been pretty busy, and really the last couple of weeks you're getting ready for Update 30.
Oh, absolutely. With the gnomes in the anniversary dungeon. Absolutely. I think I've gone through the dungeon, I'm pretty sure, over 50 times at this point. But it's been very enjoyable, though.
So what is that?
Oh, no.
Oh, man, I can't even 20 Epic Elite Cubes cannot take down this group of people on
That's
House
insane.
Jurassic. All right, so if someone submits a bug and through ddobugs.turbine.com, do you see it?
Yes, absolutely.
And then what do you do with it?
Basically, there's a big long list of just player bugs from like today to like past couple weeks ago, and we observe them, we read over them, and we say, okay, are we able to replicate this? So I would take the steps that you would give, and then I would go through each individual step and go, yes, this is a bug, or oh, this is just a feature. So we do a little bit of that.
Nice. All right, and so you started as an intern, right?
Yes.
And is that still technically what you do? Or you've been hired yet?
I'm not sure. They
Yeah?
did give me the extension for me to be until August.
Okay, cool.
As of a couple weeks ago, they're like, hey, we need you on. So I will be here until August. After that point, I'm not really so sure. So.
And how did you get to, I know a lot of people will say, hey, I wouldn't mind being an intern for Turbine either. And I know there were some people who would be like, hey, I wouldn't mind being an intern for Turbine either.
Yeah.
How did you get to do that?
Basically, I was currently going to RIT for game design and development, and
RIT being
Rochester Institute of Technology.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for a job at the time, and I saw, I think it was either Boston Postmortem or it was on the official website for an internship position for quality assurance. So I just rammed up a really nice resume, I sent it over, and within the next couple days they asked for a phone interview, so I did a couple interviews, and then they said, yeah, you're cool. So it was really exciting, and something definitely exciting to leave college with, so it's cool.
And you mentioned Boston Postmortem. That's a monthly get-together of people either looking to get into the game development community or people working in the development community. It's sort of a get-together usually at a bar of some sort. There's a speech where people talk about, hey, today we got so-and-so from this studio talking about doing X, that kind of thing. And it's a great place to network and do things like that if you want to find out more. So, someone, Rian Nua, must be from RIT as well. I'm hearing an RIT.
Yeah!
RIT. So, Technical 13 asks, what is a good bug report?
Oh, to be really honest, I get very few of these because there's some of them where it's like, I'm lost, and I'm like, okay, where? Where are you lost? Please help me. So, somebody who gives the /LOC, it's something very small, but it's something so essential and so helpful because it points to me exactly where you are. And if you're like in a dungeon where sometimes those instances are private, if you say, hey, I'm in this quest for this specific path, and here is my location, and if you go to this spot, this enemy is too strong, or I ended up falling into a pit of void, so please help me. So just a very clear bug report is super, super helpful for me, and it's more likely that I will say, okay, let's just submit this over to the programmers, the artist, whoever's in charge of that particular section, and it gets fixed. So it's cool.
Nice. All right, so looks like we're probably going live on Monday, huh?
Yeah.
I've been sitting at my desk here. I don't know what you guys have actually been up to today. You're putting the final touches on the build, right?
Yeah. Pretty much we're really, really, really close to done. As of yesterday, I believe, we put in like the final icing on the cake for the anniversary dungeon, no pun intended, but I think there's like one more thing with Gnome revolving an icon or something like that, and then afterwards we're pretty much set.
Cool. All right, well, thanks. Really
Thank
appreciate you
you.
stopping on by.
Happy birthday, happy anniversary, have a lovely, lovely day.
All right, well, I can show you a little bit about the madness that has been taking place in House Jarasco. Oh, man, they just kill them faster than I can spawn them. That's what happens. You guys are with these things. What would be a good one to do? All right, like I said, we're going to be having more interviews really throughout the afternoon and evening here, along with a whole bunch of other cool stuff going on. I am on Galanda, having a little bit of fun. I'm going to head on over to Evening Star now, just so I don't neglect the fine Forgotten Realms peaks. See, the problem with Spider Bite 91 is raid bosses, as you heard with Brent there, tend to have special scripting. So they don't really work when you just spawn them in a public instance. So typically, you can't just spawn raid bosses in a public instance because they'll just stand there or go brain dead or something like that because they're tied to a specific scripting in the harbor or in the code that they have. So you can't really just sort of like spawn a dozen habits or something of that nature. Oh, I give myself the flies. Create items. Would be a good one. see. Yep. Okie dokie. Let me switch on back. Oh, what is it? Up there. All right. I've got someone else here with me. This is Solorian. How you doing, Solorian?
Good, how are you?
Now, what is your official title here with DDO?
So, most recently, staff software engineer.
And that means things like what? Game platform and all the rest?
Yeah, basically anything engineering, game platform, lots of UI work lately, AI, just really anything.
Yeah. So, like for example, I also happen to know, and I'm saying this because I know Jeff Hanna would be very, very interested to know, you are the person who fixed the mouse wheel bug.
Fix the what? I'm sorry?
The mouse wheel bug.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I fixed a lot of the UI related oddness that was going on. I think one thing would keep you from being able to click on dialog boxes. This is going a little ways back. I'm starting to forget everything. But yeah, the mouse scroll wheel lock, some of the other things like that. There were 4 or 5, I think, that recently got fixed.
You also have done a lot of work with like ingredients bags over the years. I know both to positive effect and troubling effect. Hireling AI, I know, has been a bit of a thorn in your side for a long time. You know.
That's a system that has needed a lot of work for years and years and years, and it's a huge system. Just so many moving parts to it. It's a very complicated thing to do well. And I hope that my recent work has shown some improvement in that area.
You also go back to Turbine a pretty long ways. When did you get your start at Turbine?
Officially started November 1st, 2008.
2008, okay. And do you remember, was it for DDO?
No, I started on the game platform engine group, which did work for both DDO and Lotro simultaneously.
All right, and game platform is, I guess, what people might say in the community, the launcher folks, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like launcher and general, server infrastructure, game world, that kind of thing?
The majority of it was actually looking at game client crashes, game server crashes, any new engine level tech that needed to go into the game. We would take a look at that, and that included the launcher as well. Store stuff.
I have a question from Noble Pirate on the forums. Are you the person to ask about fixing ladder bugs? Would you fix a ladder bug? Is that your job?
Not really. Yeah. So those tend to be a case-by-case basis. More often than not, it's content. The ladder doesn't reach all the way down to the floor, or for some reason it's too close to the wall that it's on, or something like that, and the ladder just doesn't work well. But it really is a case-by-case basis.
So what kind of skill set do you use being an engineer on DDO?
Well, I really work mostly in C++, plus we have our own proprietary scripting language. Just really any object-oriented concepts, anything like that. I mean, there's nothing terribly special about what we do here programming-wise. I don't know. That's about it. I mean, I recently really started doing a lot of UI-related work for DDO and Lotro.
Yeah.
So kind of getting into that.
Someone's asking a technical question as well. Papa Dragon 3309. What is Osomium and what does it do? Do you have the answer to that? Can you answer that?
Osomium was a company. I don't think they actually exist anymore. That provided the interaction for our store, so they handled the transactions and whatnot on the store side. We upload our catalog of items to them, and they handle the transactions. We are no longer using Osomium. We have switched to a company called Xsola now.
And as a matter of fact, in update 30 here on Monday, we're going to be say getting rid of things like the old what's remnants of the MyDDO browser and things like that as part of an effort to really get rid of Osomium too, and the few places where it still needs to be in the game happens on demand rather than say being, I guess, just sort of constantly present. So.
Yeah, so our embedded browser is still going to be called Osomium, if I'm not mistaken. I could be confused about how this is all actually working. This is a very much a game platform thing, which I have not been a member of for a long time.
Yeah.
But our in-game browser, for every object in the game that needed browser type activity, you would probably see an Osomium instance for. And we are removing a lot of those instances, and so you should see significantly fewer Osomium instances in your task manager.
Right. I also happen to know, and I'm going to say this just because I'm putting some people on the spot, you have done some exploit work over the years. It is not uncommon that when we run into an exploit in DDO, you are one of the guys who's like, you need to figure out what they're doing and how to fix it.
Right, so yeah, you can blame me if I've closed out an exploit that you used to use. I think we killed, over the past year, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 exploits. So if that's a good thing for you, I'm glad to have helped, but...
You can both thank him and blame him. All right, well, thanks very much for stopping by. Anything else you kind of want to add?
No, I just, I was actually told, they said over here, make sure you mention that you're the guy that added the individual volume control.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you helped do, so what did that take? Because I mean, that's been a request in the community for, pretty close to a decade here.
That has, yeah, it's actually been on my plate for probably, embarrassingly, 5 or 6 years, and I just recently dug into some of that layer trying to fix a different problem, and while I was there, I went ahead and did the work, and I apologize. It's probably something I should have done a long time ago, and it ended up being a pretty easy thing to do, actually.
Oh, nice. One of those things when you actually get down to it, it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad after all.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure it was more than just pushing the make it work button that I keep talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, he has a really big make it work button, so he pushes that button to make it work over and over.
Yep.
That's how coding works.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks, Johnny. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for playing.
You bet. Thanks. All right. What am I going to do now? I am going to, as long as I'm not quite ready to go to Kyber yet, I still haven't had a chance to get some lunch yet. So I think what I'm going to do, is kill that. And then I'm going to load up a longer form image slideshow and video. And then I'm going to take about a 10-15 minute break here while I do that. And I'll actually play an interview that I've done as well when it gets time for that. What would be a good one to do? I think I'll do some more of the concept art. I've got a whole bunch of it left to do. See how much I can throw in. I wonder if I can do all this. Like I say, I haven't actually had any lunch yet, so I'm going to do that quick. Hey, I'm actually going to take a lunch break here in just a little bit, so why don't we take care of that after lunch, okay? All right, I am going to play interview. This is with Flimsy Firewood. Ilia is his name. And he couldn't be here today, but I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to chat with him, so I recorded this yesterday. I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes or so. Goes by the name of Ilia. How you doing?
Hi.
So, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. I haven't actually told you what I'm going to ask you yet. But I guess one of the first things that people who have heard you in interviews over the years probably know is you're from Russia.
Yes.
So how did you get to Massachusetts to start working for Turbine?
I got married and moved to Massachusetts. And then I got interviewed for a QA position and then was hired full time.
Cool. So you started actually in QA then. Do you remember what year that was?
No, 2007 I think.
Okay. So so not a little bit after DDO first started.
Yes.
And so how did you first start working as a primarily content developer on DDO?
Well, that's what they. It was funny because they gave me this design test for Lotro team, and when I showed up for the interview, they told me, "No, I'm actually being hired for DDO." So it was a kind of a surprise.
Nice.
Now I guess that's going around still.
Now clearly I know.
Since
I know
you're
for a fact-
blindsiding me with those questions.
Oh, no doubt. Well, yeah, there's always people that come from go from one to the other here in the building. So, I know just personally that you know how to play D&D. You and I have played some pen and paper ourselves, both Dungeons and Dragons and custom campaigns. Tell me a little bit about your D&D history. All right, hello. I'm here with Flimsy Firewood. Goes by the name of Ilia. How you doing?
Hi.
So, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. I haven't actually told you what I'm going to ask you yet. But I guess one of the first things that people who have heard you in interviews over the years probably know is you're from Russia.
Yes.
So how did you get to Massachusetts to start working for Turbine?
I got married and moved to Massachusetts. And then I got interviewed for a QA position and then was hired full time.
Cool. So you started actually in QA then. Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, 2007 I think.
Okay. So so not a little bit after DDO first started.
Yes.
And so how did you first start working as a primarily content developer on DDO?
Well, that's what they. It was funny because they gave me this design test for Lotro team, and when I showed up for the interview, they told me, "No, I'm actually being hired for DDO." So it was a kind of a surprise.
Nice.
Now I guess that's going around still.
Now clearly I know.
Since
I know
you're
for
blindsiding me with those questions.
Oh, no doubt. Well, yeah, there's always people that come from one to the other here in the building. So, I know just personally that you know how to play D&D. You and I have played some pen and paper ourselves, both Dungeons and Dragons and custom campaigns. Tell me a little bit about your D&D history.
About my what?
D&D history.
History.
Yeah. So, how long have you been playing D&D?
Years and years. First started in college, because when I came into this country for the first time, I had a language barrier, and Table Gaming Club in University of Maine at Farmington was the place that took me in as one of their own, and that was that.
Awesome. And what edition is your favorite? Your own, huh? I know the truth of this. You like making your own worlds.
Well, yes. each of those things is each of the editions is interesting in its own right. I guess I would gravitate towards 3 point whatever because it gave you the most crunchy flexibility to make your own character. But it has its own faults, namely the whole having to pre-plan your career in advance from level 1 to 20 unless you want to miss out on all the prestige classes and so on. And that's kind of a no-no.
Sure, sure. I also happen to know that you do design your own worlds. I don't know how much you want to talk about them, but you and I have done some kind of game testing of your worlds, things like that. I've been in a monthly group with you for a while where we were doing your own kind of RPG systems and things like that. Everything from simple, you have this kobold thing that I really dig, to fairly complex stuff.
Kobold? Oh, right.
Yeah, kobold rules.
Yeah, that game came from university days. That was the drunken parties where nobody wanted to GM and people wanted to have fun and not worry too much about serious role-playing. But no. Yeah, well, every game master is hoping to be a game designer one day, and when you become a game designer, it doesn't stop. So there is that.
Do you remember what the first dungeon you worked on is? Or maybe one of the first, if you can't think of the absolute first.
It was in the. It was a pirate themed in the Three Barrel Cove.
Okay.
The ridiculous puzzle that would short out, and I had to cut it into 4 pieces. Because
you started early, huh?
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, if you've looked at some of the most difficult puzzles and quests in the game, some of the ones that we were just like, why would they torture me like that? It's his fault.
Yeah.
So, what attracts you to that kind of thing?
Pain.
You just like the pain and suffering of the players?
Yeah, but it's kind of it goes both ways because the UI to set up floor puzzles in DDO is not the most forgiving thing, and it's almost as much pain to set them up as to solve them. Because there's a lot of linking and cross-linking and back-linking and missing one link and everything else falls apart like a cart house. Yeah.
What's been particularly funny over the years is, just based on community feedback, you are responsible for some of the most loved dungeons in the game.
And hated.
That's what I was just going to say. You are also responsible for some of the most hated dungeons in the game.
Yeah. Polarizing audiences is a hobby. Yeah.
Right.
Good stuff.
Now, you've also done some raid work.
Yeah. And some of them came out better than others. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, I know. I mean, I think probably most. Well, you know what's funny? Okay, let me real talk time here. Caught in the Web, when it came out, some folks really had a hard time with it. But over the years, people still run it a lot.
Which name?
Caught in the Web.
Oh right, the one where there is that NPC that gets stuck on things and yeah. Yep.
But people are still running it to this day, so maybe you are doing something right.
Coil 2.0, yeah.
Right. But what other raids have you worked on? If you remember.
That and the nameless one with the Return to Giant Hole. I forgot the actual name for the...
the truthful one? Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
I forgot the actual name of the raid. That's,
No
that's
problem.
embarrassing, but
No, that happens.
Designers deal with work in progress names, not final names.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's actually kind of funny you mention that because there's a lot of times where there's an extra step of translation for the community team where it's like we hear it from the dev team called X, Y, or Z, and then we have to translate to what it's actually called or what the players know it as. And sometimes those things don't always match up, right?
Floor caves in, the guy hops around, a bunch of giants come out, and there is explosions. Yeah.
Let's see. You, what are some of the your favorite dungeons that you got to work on?
Well, the kobolds probably, the whole barrels and crystals and all that. That was fun because it was founded in the lore of the designers before me, and the kobolds happen to be photogenic and soundgenic, if that's a word. That made it kind of an interesting experience, a different experience for everyone.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, as often happens, both in Turbine and in the game industry, you are not currently working on Dungeons & Dragons Online, but you're working on one of our big mobile projects that's coming out here.
Yep.
And so what's it like shifting between, say, a large MMO project to, say, I don't want to say smaller, because I happen to know for a fact that mobile projects are not at all smaller.
They're not small.
But for a different sort of kind of audience like that.
Well, the UI is simpler. The tools are different. The same people, so the development is still more or less the same, but you're right that the audience expectations are different, and you have to make sure that the game mechanics translate into a simpler interface without losing themselves in the process, so that you can do more with fewer interactions.
Cool.
But there is still, a brainy part to it, because otherwise that's sad.
Nice. I don't know. Anything else you kind of want to add here?
Hi, Mom.
Happy 10th anniversary DDO, huh?
Yep.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. We are back from my bagel-filled lunch. And here to say hello to another DDO team member who has graciously agreed to be forced to sit in a chair and talk to me.
Hello, everyone.
Nah, not totally. No Worries is here. How you doing, No Worries?
Doing good. How
Great.
you doing?
Appreciate you stopping by and wishing us all a happy 10th anniversary DDO. So, lately, you've done loot, content work, raids, things like that.
Yeah, I've taken over most of the loot work for the past several months. I started off helping Epify Orchard. I went in and did Mask of Deception as my first quest that was my own. I did the Flower of the Just raid, and other than that, I've done a lot of loot and a lot of monster manuals.
Cool. All right. Just a quick second. I've got a couple people telling me the audio is not so hot.
Oh no.
I haven't filled up my hard drive. That could be the reason. All right, check. It's there. Recording is there. And Skype is... Alright, it's just perhaps you guys won't actually hear this for about 30 seconds thanks to the delay. But we'll see. Trying to get myself back to a place where I was. Alright, well, let me just to get on here. Hopefully, is it any better at all? I mean, it should be, I think. I've got everything set differently from the way it was. Are you guys still hearing crackling right now? I guess I'll know in about 30 seconds here. Currently no change. See if that hopefully took care of it. Alright, I think that should actually take care of it. I think I had to set my volume mixer slightly different. Must have messed it up when I got Ilia's thing going. Alright, anyway, we're here with No Worries. So, you worked, let's see, what raids did you did Defiler of the Just?
Yes.
And what else recently have you done in terms of quests and stuff?
I did the Mask of Deception quest, and I helped with Epifying Orchard. Other than that, it was mostly systems and loot work.
Alright. And loot is, I know, because I've been here hired since 2010. The dev who works on loot has got a real challenge ahead of them. It's not the easiest system in the world to work into.
Yeah, it's tough, and I think it's even a bit tougher now because we tried to come up with a new direction that would allow random loot and quest loot to coexist and both be useful, and people are still expecting quest loot to be the be-all, end-all of loot. So it's a tough one to find items that people are interested in that don't just cause power creep constantly.
Man, sorry, I'm having some audio issues. I apologize for that. Oh no. It's kind of hard to tell. All right, I'm going to kill the stream real quick and come on back, see if that's any better.